Games in this podcast range from E to M.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the official Xbox podcast, the only Xbox podcast coming to you from inside Xbox. I think that's how it goes, right?
That's the line.
Who are you two? I don't even know who you are.
I don't know. What's going on, everybody? I'm Malik Prince, and welcome back to the podcast. Our final show of the year, in fact, and we're going to kick it off with a great show. But before we get started, if this is your first time watching, you know what to do. Hit the follow, subscribe button, basically whatever button lets you know when we post a new show. But I'm going to waste no time because, as you can see, I have a majestic person within a majestic mustache that I'm super jealous of. Of course, we have Jeff and Tina, who are our regular everyday.
Decidedly less majestic.
Every day, standard issue.
You all are special, but not as special as our guest, Joe Skrebels, who is Xbox Wire's editor-in-chief.
Hello, pleasure to be here. Thank you for letting me come on.
And also the best accent on the show.
Oh, I think that's. I think people in England would disagree with me.
Really?
I think they would find me very irritating.
Oh, no. I think we love accents.
Fortunately, you're
here.
amongst good company,
Yeah,
so it's okay.
100%.
We like you.
So, editor-in-chief of Xbox Wire. We're going to get into it a little bit, but high level, what does that mean?
It means that I run a little team of people who like to bring you all the news that we possibly can about Xbox, about our platforms, about our promotions, and about the games that are coming, most importantly. And yeah, a big part of my job, I've been here for about a year now, has been in sort of deepening that stuff and telling new stories and trying to get behind the scenes at studios. So I've visited Rare, I went to Finland for Alan Wake 2, and we've had team members dive into the oral history of Hi-Fi Rush, and we're trying to put together these like big, meaty, new features for Wire and like tell new stories. So if you would like to click on it, we would very much enjoy that.
Of course, and I think to your point, we've seen a lot of great stuff come out of the Xbox Wire, and I know you have a lot planned. So we're gonna get more into a lot of news because there has been a lot of news. We also have an interview with Adam Smith, who was the lead writer of Baldur's Gate 3, that picked up a very important award this past week.
Quite a few, but also the most important.
Shocking everyone, by the way. No one saw it coming.
And guess what? You can play it on Xbox right now. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But let's talk about, since this is a video game show, let's talk about what we're playing. Who would like to go first? I feel like I'm a teacher in the class. There's like so many. Who would like to me? And the teacher always picked their favorite kid.
Yeah.
All right, we'll start with Tina. Tina.
So I'm the favorite, obviously.
Yeah,
he
we
just
knew.
said it. You heard it here first. So it's actually Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay, there you go. Perfect.
Obviously, because it's gotten a bunch of awards. People have been talking about it for forever. Been excited to play. It's finally out on Xbox, which is awesome because I've been playing since then, essentially. So my weekend was very occupied by a lot of exploration and a lot of character customization. Because basically my first hour or two, an incredible amount of time spent on just thinking about, do I want a pre-baked origin story? Do I want to start something new on my own? I started something new on my own. And then how do you want to spec things? And it's not just a standardized class situation where you pick one and then you go through the leveling up system through there. You can actually kind of micromanage some of those systems and add on subclasses and then pick your particular spells that you want and maybe swap them out later if you didn't like them in practice. And that was such an incredible moment of choice where I was sitting there oh no, what if I'm making the wrong choice? But fortunately there's tons of guides out there now because the game's been out for a minute, so I was able to do some research too.
And you can respec for 100 gold
That's
if
true.
you ever need
yes,
to.
Yes, exactly. You have options. You've got choices.
So what'd you pick? What'd you start with?
I'm a sorcerer,
Okay.
And then I have some subclasses that I'm even forgetting now, but I always end up going towards things that lean towards persuasion because in games like big RPG games where you have a lot of dialogue, I really prefer to talk my way out of situations. There's always combat, but why not, also have an opportunity to see how the dialogue goes. There's tons of people on the development team working through these different dialogue choices, and I like to see how stories might branch out or what consequences there might be. So I definitely spec in that direction. And then intelligence, of course, because I'm a sorcerer.
You're very smart.
Yes, I'm very smart.
you were gonna
I need to
say
be
that.
the smartest.
Oh, you were of course. That's my
Why would
time.
you think
I'm the
otherwise?
teacher's favorite.
Yes, exactly. I'm Malik's favorite. Exactly. But then from there, it's fascinating because this game is huge, and I can tell right off the bat because I'm just getting into the Emerald Grove, part of the introductory to the game. Obviously your goal is to eventually get to Baldur's Gate, and I'm sure see the game open up so much more. But wow, I feel like I am scratching the surface and the map, the game's world is being discovered in front of me. I'm like, ooh, I can go left, right, or forward, and then again left and right. So there's just a lot of options, and it is beautifully overwhelming.
Any tips for people starting? And like you had mentioned, Malik, we'll be talking to Adam Smith, the writer, about like how to spec and how to think about it. But just anything you picked up in your first few hours that you would recommend, like here's what I'm picking up right now.
Well, there's so many things you can get sidelined and distracted by, and actually I'd rather you two tell me, because you guys are both further in the game, because we cheated and talked a little bit about the game before we came onto the podcast. Like, we can't help ourselves.
We were let out of our isolation chambers before the show
exactly,
started.
the Baldur's Gate 3 isolation chamber. But yeah, I'm going down the path of like, ooh, this is interesting, or like this seems nearby, but I feel like I'm probably like locking myself out of things or missing things. So I'm going mostly Golden Path. Okay. But I suspect maybe I might be missing some stuff if I continue to do that.
It's hard to tell. Like, in terms of, because I've only done a bit of one playthrough, so it's really not clear to me what I'm missing. The key thing for me, I was actually talking about this with someone else this morning, resting in that game, like time passing, is a genuine thing you have to think about. So, for instance, I've definitely heard about people who were like, so I found this burning house, and I was like, oh, I better rest up before I go in. And obviously they rest for the night, and the house burnt down. Like, it's not like a normal quest where it just burns forever for no reason
waiting
to
for
accommodate
you. Yeah.
So I think that's worth, any situation where you come across something and someone is dying or something is going to happen imminently.
Yeah, think about it like a living world.
Don't let it happen. So I think that would be a big one. I promise I won't do this throughout, but we have a very good Xbox Wire article from the developers.
Hey, this is your time to shine.
Yeah, exactly. From the developers of Larian, or a developer at Larian, who gave a bunch of ideas for starting builds as well. So if you don't want to go through the 2 hours of hand wringing that I did, you can have some sort of like jumping off points for different classes and
Who
stuff.
did you pick? What class did you pick?
I am a half-orc paladin with an oath of vengeance.
I
I basically
sounds dangerous.
I never roleplay in role-playing games. I'm always just like, I'm the good guy. And in this one I was like, right, I'm gonna do that, and I've decided I'm playing him as Orc Batman. I'm just like, he strives for justice, but he sometimes does it the wrong way. Or in a dark way. I'm like, that's what I'm going for.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, exactly.
Orcs, yeah.
Go on.
I was gonna say, I always try to like be the good guy too, and you actually are at most of the time, I find in like these role playing kind of games, you do benefit from being the good guy. Like, there's a lot of things that people are more drawn to you. You have like more options. Not the deal.
No,
because in this one you don't. I've noticed.
In video games, you always are listen. You play your life as the good person, right?
Yeah.
Like, you go through life. I think most of us are generally good people. You play video games to be the bad guy, to be the bad person, and just
you're always the hero as the protagonist. You're like saving the world.
Maybe
your motivations are all pure.
Yeah, maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Well, this is the chance to try it out. But like, there is an opportunity where you can get into a cave, for example, and the options are like intimidate or attack, essentially. You get a lot of these options throughout the game. And I'm like, well, there's no good option to be like the good guy here and like reason with the person in this situation. And so I have to find an alternate way to go in. So it's actually, I'm not getting penalized per se, but I'm not getting my way by being the good guy either. So it is something to think about, to be more like Malik.
The thing that's interesting with paladins, you have to swear an oath. So I'm also a paladin, and I forget, something like justice or something like that. And if you ever go against what like that credo is, like after you've made that decision, some like scary dude like teleports in and is like, I'll see you tonight, buddy. It's like your sleep paralysis demon or something that shows up and is like, okay, I might have just broken this oath, and then
I've clearly been role-playing so well.
Okay. There's been a couple
I've never
times
seen that.
where I've lost my patience. Like, I'm largely, like, I go for, like, I forget what it is, but it's just like, I have my moral compass, and so there's certain things. And there was one thing where I was like, I just don't feel like getting involved. And let me tell you, letting injustice go by was a violation of my oath. And I reloaded very quickly. And so that's my advice, is going into a situation where you're not, I don't like to save scum too much. Like, oh, I got the wrong roll, I'm going to reload, things like that. But because I'm learning the game and learning the mechanics, I've never played a CRPG before like this. Like, I literally don't know what the rules of engagement are. So I'll save going in. And if things go like a little bit bad, but I worked my way out of it. Great, we're going to keep going. If I did not even know that I was just going to kill this innocent person that was standing next to a bunch of mushrooms. This happened last night because I got too close to one, and it unleashed an inferno that killed everybody. I'll reload in that situation and think about it differently. So
I realize I play games so differently than many people, but I guess that's the beauty of it,
Oh,
right?
exactly, especially RPGs.
100%. I live with the consequences of my actions. I will never go back and redo a scenario because I'm like, you know what? This is what you deserve, Malik. You didn't take this into account, or you didn't see this coming. To your point,
Yeah,
Jeff.
that is fair.
That's what you get.
If it's an accidental button press, though,
Okay,
because I had accidentally stole something, and I was like, I'm just like jamming A around the place, and like apparently stole something and got yelled at, and then they came and like, you got to go to jail, and like I could try to bribe them. I didn't realize how much money I didn't have. Tried to bribe them, and they were like, what is this? This is paltry. And went to jail, and they're like, okay, now you have to figure out how to break out of jail. I was like, you know what? I just want to push forward in the story a little bit, so I'm just gonna reload and be okay with that decision.
what I think is amazing about the game is that we can play through and just have wildly different experiences. I'm constantly thinking like I'm taking the hard way out, which is like fighting my way like entirely too much. Occasionally I have found like, wait, if I say the right thing, this village full of goblins will just like let me walk around.
Yeah.
Like if I happen to like, use my
That's
silver
why
tongue.
persuasion.
Yeah, well, you're a podcaster. You're like really role playing. You don't even realize it. But like even using like the tricks, using the things around. So shoving people versus like trying to like. There was one very difficult boss I was fighting in some goblin cave, and at some point I was just like. I was banging my head against the wall, kept missing them. Just shoved them off of a bridge, and I was like, "Oh, cool, done."
Yeah.
I know
that was
exactly
easy.
the bridge you're talking about.
Yes, okay, you do. And so I would say use shove. It's like a free move
Yes.
that you can use pretty frequently. But yeah, I actually started out on PC because I couldn't. Over Thanksgiving, I knew it was coming to Xbox. I was very impatient, and I bought it. But then I was able to transfer the game over pretty seamlessly.
yeah.
You just need to make sure in your settings, both on your PC and on your Xbox version, or any version you're transferring, you have to turn on, there's a checkbox, to turn on cross saves or universal saves, something like that. Then every time I save, I can see it. It's uploaded. It literally tells you it's uploading to the cloud. And I'm one of these people
sense of relief.
Yes, I save and then I save again and I wait and then I turn it off.
Just in case.
One of those normal people who behaves very rationally in those situations.
On the combat note, though, in terms of like you can play so many different ways, like I tend to be a DPS person, and I'm like all my specs is on like my spells that are specifically to just deal damage, but I like investing in like the grease. You can either get a grease bomb or like, some of your companions can also have that spell right from the get-go and like combine that with my fire spells. And it's just fun to see those combinations. But yeah, shove or like putting people to sleep and then like, strategizing around disengaging from an enemy so you don't get hit from them as you're trying to like evade and get into a safe spot. Like there's just so much strategy embedded in it. I find myself playing in a different way than I normally would, but I like it. It adds like to the level of depth, essentially.
It's also tough enough that it really forces you to think about those things.
Yes.
Like, I'm trying not to give specifics, but I was in like a very tough fight. I could not beat it. I tried it like 3 times and kept reloading and was like, eventually I'm just going to have to like run away and come back. And the best way I could work out to do it was to take all my spellcasters and effectively put them about 30 feet above the person I wanted to kill and just stood there and chucked stuff at it until he died.
Lightning
Yeah,
bolt.
and it was just, it felt so cheesy, but I was also like, well, they put this here for a reason.
Yeah.
I can climb to it for some reason.
Plus, it's war. You might die.
Exactly.
This is serious stakes.
I died a lot.
So many good stuff. And I obviously haven't jumped in yet. So I think hearing your experiences and kind of how you all decide to tackle things has got me excited. I know everyone out there who maybe hasn't played it, it's only been out for a few days on Xbox at least, can jump in now and hopefully you have a great time. And again, we have an interview with Adam Smith, the lead writer of the game, a little bit later on in the show. So obviously Baldur's Gate is a huge game, Baldur's Gate 3. Joe, anything else you've been playing?
Yeah, this tiny game called Fortnite.
Oh, no.
So this week, or over the last week and a bit, they've been adding entire new games to Fortnite out of nowhere. So Lego Fortnite, Rocket Racing, which is from the Rocket League developer Psyonix, and then the one I was waiting for was Fortnite Festival, which is a harmonics game that now lives inside Fortnite, which is wild. So this is effectively somewhere between Rock Band and their last game, Fuser, if anyone played Fuser.
I remember that.
Which was like a game about effectively learning how to DJ, but you could just stick stems of songs together to make new songs. It was incredible. And this has both elements. So every day you log in, there's a selection of songs that you can play in Rock Band style. You can play guitar, bass, or lead melody, bass, drums, and vocals, which eventually they are going to patch in support for your old plastic peripherals if you haven't thrown those away, which is amazing.
That's great support.
And the clever thing about it to me is like it's quite a limited pool of featured songs that switches over quite often. So you're never going to... It feels like it's not designed for giant party sessions like the old days. It's like, I've turned on Fortnite, I want to play a few songs with some friends, and then we'll jump into Battle Royale or we'll go into Lego Fortnite or whatever. So quite a smart way of turning that into a very different experience. And then it has a whole section called the Jam Stage, which is effectively them using the tech from Fuser inside Fortnite. So you can earn or buy songs, jump in there, and it just drops you in with like 30 people, 5 different little stages that you can run onto. And then you can load up stems from songs and just stick them all together and create new songs. It's wild. Like, it's an amazing little tool.
I think the things that Epic is doing over there with Fortnite is just impressive, like just breathing new life and using it really as the anchor, to your point, for all these awesome experiences from other development teams within Epic. I will say, like, Harmonix, like, Dance Central brings me back. They need to add Dance Central like game, because I used to tear up a rug, almost literally, in my apartment, doing all these amazing dance moves. But Harmonix, so talented musical developers, and then of course, as you mentioned, Rocket Racing from the folks over at Psyonix. I think really great way to kind of utilize the talent that they already have on the team, making such an amazing experience in Fortnite. So, wow. Hats off to you all at Epic. I mean, come on.
They know what they're doing.
It's not even a game anymore. It's an experience. It's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
1,000 things.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Jeff, what have you been playing?
So before heading out, we were actually sitting next to each other at the Game Awards and just sort of trying to guess what everything was before it. That was a good time. But before playing that game, the night before was when Season 5 something for Halo came out, the second part of it. And that is what launched Firefight King of the Hill. And I had the best time playing with our old co-host, Mr. Major Nelson. And we ended up playing for hours on Firefight King of the Hill. And what's really fun is if you can make it through a round of this, then you get a skull. Could be good things, could be bad things happen to that. And we had just finished getting wiped negatively, in case it doesn't come out, on regular level. And for some reason, Larry was like, let's play on heroic. And so we're like, yeah, that's going to work out well. Well, somehow we ended up getting a skull that gave everyone unlimited ammo for any weapon that they had. And so we pick up the power weapons, and then we are just just imagine a Halo bazooka that never runs out of shells. It was awesome. So we ended up having we'll probably never get that exact run of pattern to happen, but ended up having the best time. And so it's PvE. It's like exactly what I was hoping for, which is it's an environment for us to chat and have a good time, and also be partnering up together and it's just not sweaty, which I think is like fun. Yeah. I'm sure if you put it on the highest level, it would be, but at a heroic or down, man, there's just a relaxing, fun time, and highly recommend it.
Shout out to 343, who did we had Brian Gerard obviously on the show a while ago, who's also did a great appearance on the Xcast.
Kind of funny this week. Yeah, he was awesome.
Paris did a great job interviewing. So the team, again, just doing a great job at just adding new things to Halo. And I will say, we read the comments every week. Jeff and I, we hosted last week, and we were like trying to figure out what PvE meant, and I think we both got it wrong. But somebody in the comments has corrected us. It's player versus environment.
Oh, so it's like what humans do all over for the last 100 years.
100%, essentially. And then for me, I obviously haven't played as much over the past week, but I got to jump into actually a game that you all showed in the partner preview. The finals had a surprise release at the Game Awards, and so I got a chance to jump into that. Played a little bit of it, and again, it's just, if you love first-person shooters, competitive games like that, this is a great game to jump into. So many people have been playing it, talking about it. It's been really cool to see, and so and what I love about this game is the higher time to kill, because I am not a guy that can jump into a game with a low time to kill. And so this gives you a little chance to maneuver. We have like jump pads, and you can like destruct the levels, kind of like Battlefield. I think it has some ex-Battlefield devs on it.
Sure
So
does.
it's been exciting, and it's free to play and available now on Xbox. So be sure to give it a shot if that's your kind of thing.
So I was hearing that you can pick like sort of a light and nimble character, or like
Yes.
a big bruiser that can literally like pound through wall. Like, what do you find
100%.
success with?
So it has three different body types, all have their pluses and minuses. And so I went kind of in the middle, kind of balancing speed with power. And then I think, like we've seen in so many great games, like you can customize your character, purchase like different kind of emotes and accessories for your character to make them look cool. I am a no skin kind of person. I never, in any video game, I never put a skin on my character, because
You don't want to stand out and be shot.
no, yeah, you don't exactly. And then also, if you're really good at the game, you get to be unassuming, right? You like
Yeah.
nobody knows
You're
if
hustling
you're really
everyone.
good.
It's his
I
first
see how it
game.
is.
He's not afraid.
Take that. But it's been really cool to kind of see how people even already have found their groove in the game, and so it's awesome.
That's the thing. Like, so I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but the thing that really interests me is so many of those games kind of have a set path to victory, and it's about like getting really good at that thing. Whereas this, with the destructibility and with a load of different sort of tricky ways to play, it feels like there's a lot of onus put on work out how you do better at this and do it in your own way. Have you had a lot of experience of people like doing super unexpected things in there?
It's been a lot of the destructibility. I've unintentionally done cool stuff. Right? I'm like, how did I do that? So I picked up like this explosive, kind of like the classic video game explosive barrel, and I chucked it, and it like destroyed the whole like floor of one of the buildings, and like took out a person who we were trying to capture at the point, and an enemy was rushing us, and so I took out an entire floor, and they had to find their way back up. And so like unintentionally, I'm finding that there are some really cool ways to kind of tackle different competitive parts of the game,
Right.
which is really cool. So I highly recommend, if you're into first-person shooters, this is another one to jump into, give it a shot in just a field that's really thriving right now. I feel like competitive shooters. So yeah, so that's kind of what we've been playing. You let us know below in the comment section what you've been playing as we go into the holiday season. There's so much time. I'm sure a lot of you are going to be jumping into your backlogs, but if there are any games that sparked your interest from the Game Awards, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, let us know, and we'd love to read them.
Or any of your Baldur's Gate 3 tips.
There you go. 'Cause I'm going to need them. It's gonna be tough for me to jump into, but I'm excited to do it. So Joe, we talked a little bit about you and Wire. Anything that we can look forward to coming up with Xbox Wire?
I mean, just this is the problem. I sort of stepped on this at the start, forgetting that we had a whole section, Billy.
Yeah, I did too. So
Yeah.
you know,
There's plenty to talk about.
Yeah. But I think what I'd like to say is what we're aiming to do is make it surprising and make it a place where it's not just about, obviously we'll always have the news about the things that are coming out now and the stuff that you'd expect to be there, but we're really aiming to drop those moments where, you know, there's a story on there that you were never expecting. By the time this podcast comes out, am I giving away the fact that it's not live?
You're fine. We say it all the time.
Yeah, we should have, I believe, a new story about an element of the making of Starfield, which I think is super unexpected and like a really different take on the making of a game. I won't spoil what it is, but yeah, we're just aiming for that sort of rollout of stuff where it's not just about what's happening now, it's about how things were made and the kind of bizarre stories of games development as well. So I would highly recommend that you check back and yeah, we'll have good stuff for you.
Well, it's
There you
cool
go.
because like we have these connections to all these studios, and we get to like talk about this stuff internally. We, you know, you and I both, because Joe and I were former and current coworkers,
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
we just have this incredible passion and interest in gaming. And when you get to hear about the inside stories and get that deeper appreciation and education on it, it feels like a richer experience. And when you're playing through things, you have this deeper level of understanding, and
Yeah.
that's what you and the team are really trying to do, is build that connection between our audience and like our developers.
Yeah,
too.
that's the thing. I think my passion in games journalism has always been in hearing something weird and wanting to tell people about
Yeah.
it. And I think that's what we're trying to build here is like, it is just kind of being excited about stuff. And so, yeah, hopefully that comes across and
Yeah.
we'll continue to do more and more good stuff.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you.
Great job, Joe. Everyone, good job, Joe, in the chat, in the comments.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some news, actually. So we had the Game Awards that aired. I want to we're going to talk
10
about
years ago, it feels.
it feels like it. So we'll get into a few of the announcements as well as some of our highlights from the show. But I wanted to start with some of our games that won in the show. So we had Hi-Fi Rush, which took home the award for Best Audio Design. Forza Motorsport won for Best Sports/Racing Game and Innovation and Accessibility. I got to work with that team a lot on the lead up to Forza, and it's just when we did an interview with Chris Sasaki from Turn 10, who kind of just really showcased and broadcast the passion that the team had for doing something new with their blind driving assist. So it's great that they were recognized at the show, and of course, Baldur's Gate, as we talked about, won Game of the Year. So you can play that on Xbox now. Sea of Stars on Game Pass, Best Indie Game. And so many more games that you can play on Xbox that won. So congrats to the winners. Congrats to the devs who have worked really hard on these games. I think this has been an incredible year, and we owe it all to the people who are making the game. So really, just shout out to all of you who have done that.
I think people wonder what do these awards mean, and it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily change the game that you're playing, but we ran into afterwards Neha Chintala,
Yes.
who really worked quite a bit. She works for Turn 10 and worked quite a bit on the blind drive assist, and her life was just made it just felt so vindicated when you look at that innovation and accessibility category. You had Diablo, you had Street Fighter, you also had Hi-Fi Rush, and I want to say Mortal Kombat, and they all did very interesting things. And I think all these different teams working independently, but towards a greater level of accessibility, it's something that all players can benefit from. But it meant so much to see that, and I'd have to imagine that's really motivating to continue to push things forward. We also were hanging out with John Johannes afterwards from Tango Gameworks, and seemed super psyched to see how much love I think was in the room for Hi-Fi Rush just in general. It had 5 nominations, and
got some big pops throughout. Even coming through on the stream, it was amazing.
And at the biggest sort of temporal disadvantage, because it came out in January, it's literally
the
a whole year later.
Bias,
yeah, you would think, but I will say the judges did a great job of looking past that and remembering how meaningful and how impactful that game was all these many months ago.
And they just got a nomination for Game of the Year from IGN too, our alma mater.
Love it.
So it's great to see that appreciation, and yet to see people celebrate on the podcast. We had Dan Greenwald talking about that as well. Just this was, God, how long? A month ago, I think. But there's so much passion and so much due diligence that's put into that sort of thing. And back when we were at IGN, Turn 10 has been consistently praised. We've given out awards to Turn 10 previously as well for all of the work in accessibility. So it is really cool to see that people are pushing those boundaries too, and discovering new ways to connect with different players too and different needs.
Definitely pioneers in the space for sure.
Yes.
And so again, congrats to all the winners at the Game Awards. Now let's talk about some of our favorite moments. I want to start off with Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, which had an amazing showing. Of course, this debuted at the Game Awards a few years ago, and this time we got to see a little bit of gameplay at the show, and I think nobody left without their jaw being on the floor. It was visually stunning. It was, and obviously we have that game coming out in 2024.
They're both acceptable.
They're both, although
but only one sounds weirder than the other.
I have a weird thing about a shift in society from saying 2000 to 2020. Well, we'll talk about that another time. But the game looked amazing, and we had Melina, who plays Senua, at the show, and I think her story has just been tremendous. From what was her role in the? I think she was I forget what her role was originally, but it wasn't related to being a main character in a video game. But she's taken that and run with it, and has become one of the greatest characters in video games. And
has become Senua.
Yeah,
100%.
I don't know if you saw at the very beginning of that trailer, because you were it's kind of they showed some game. No, the whole thing, it starts off, it's in-game footage captured on Xbox Series X.
Yep.
So that's what the game's going to look like, which is mind-boggling.
It's wild. I feel like we're hitting that point of a generation where, you always spend a few years where you're I kind of see where, technically where this is getting there, and now we're hitting that point where it's this is the best game I've ever seen. This is the best looking game I've ever seen, and it just keeps going and going. So that trailer was absurd. I couldn't believe it.
It was very intense.
Yeah.
I mean, the first game was very intense.
Yes.
So.
And coupled with the performance from Hailung as well, we were hanging out with them after the fact, or we observed them. We were not hanging out. We observed them in their element.
They don't feel like people who hang out.
They were jamming out. It was incredible. Everyone was just in like incredible spirits. But it was cool to see. I was like reading a lot of the audience commentary and feedback on both the trailer and the performance, and a lot of people saying that this is their first introduction to Hellblade, which I think is incredible because you can just see, to your point, Joe, like the leaps and bounds that we're making as an industry, and then to see that appreciation as well, and people like looking at people who might know Hailung or people who might know Hellblade being introduced to the other, and like having that new established like entertainment reference point. Like it's really cool to see those things come together, and that's one of the cool things about the Game Awards is those performances, coming and really breathing life into a lot of those moments too.
It's what a great showing, honestly, by the team over there at Ninja Theory. A few other moments from the show. I thought one that was really great was the new EA original game, Tales of Kinzera. It was kind of introduced by actor Abu Bakar Salim, who talked about, he had a really emotional moment talking about his dad and how he's making a game that is kind of showcases like the love that you have for somebody. And I think it was really cool. EA Originals is one of those programs, this umbrella program for really interesting stories. We've seen games like It Takes Two and A Way Out, by
Joseph Fares.
Joseph Fares, yeah, exactly, who is obviously famous at the Game Awards for many reasons.
What? No.
Yeah, I know. But this kind of side-scrolling game, I think with a deeper meaning is, again, what we've been talking about, this kind of really swell of creativity and meaningful games being made by small development teams. That was just really great to see him get his moment, and I think that was kind of what the essence of the Game Awards is, those kinds of moments. So that was really cool.
And such a personal moment for him because we were talking before the cameras were rolling, that he was actually Bayek in Assassin's Creed Origins. Yeah. And if you haven't watched Raised by Wolves, he's one of the main characters, one of the android characters in that series as well. And it's just really incredible that for him, I imagine, that he gets this opportunity to do something so personal as well. And so much of like your own personality being put into a game that gets supported in this way.
Yeah, it means so much, I'm sure. And so excited to play that game when it releases. And then let's talk about some other personal favorite moments from the show. I wanted to talk about Sam Lake's performance.
Yes. You stole mine.
Oh, was that yours?
Oh, yeah.
No, I just thought it was so amazing. This icon in the industry getting up there. I don't know if any of you do that, because I don't think I'd have the courage to go in front of the entire industry and dance. And not only did he dance, he looked like he was a professional. Like he did
a great job. Yeah,
very well. So.
He did the number one thing you're supposed to do. So I maybe could do it because I actually grew up with a dance background.
Really?
Yeah, but it is one of those things where your parents are like, do everything, piano and math, and also all these dance classes. Anyway, so he did the number one thing you're supposed to do as a performer, which is smile.
Yeah.
And it just like it brought so much enjoyment for me to watch him like enjoying himself. And we were hanging out with them after the fact, and they were in such a celebratory mood, all of Remedy. But then the place where we were at, all kind of celebrating, the DJ had put on the Old Gods of Asgard soundtrack again, and so they were redoing the dance as well, and it was really fun. Like clearly, it's not just this performative thing. Like they just really enjoyed putting all of this choreography together.
How weird was it to see Alan Wake in person?
Yes,
like,
very.
It's like, that's him.
Yes,
that's him. And he
very.
looks like him.
It's just like him.
Not only him, but the man who does his voice at
Right.
the
Yes,
side as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So you're getting like a live dubbing session for Alan Wake. It was amazing.
And Mr. Door was there.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know why it just. I
We are all in the
was
dark
as starstruck
place.
as if we had seen.
It's a being of pure cosmic evil standing at the
I
side.
know,
that's
it's
true.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Security was tighter than normal, but still.
Well,
Let him in.
What an incredible moment.
So cool. So cool. Icon, congrats to that whole team over there at Remedy for Alan Wake 2. And I'll say, actually, I don't want to say another one of mine. I want to make sure that I don't want to steal another person.
That's okay. We're riffing.
Yeah. I will say, like, Don't Nod, which is a palindrome, by the way, spelled same backwards and forwards. I meant to say it on the show
Fun
before, but I
fact.
didn't remember the word. But Don't Nod, who are the creators of one of my favorite game series of all time, Life is Strange, unveiled their new game, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. And it is a story-driven game, as, we just played Jusant I said it right this time.
You did. Great job.
Nice.
But I'm excited because it's the story of like 4 teenagers who discovered a secret. I guess we'll find out in the game what that is. And 27 years later, they've come back together to talk about it and kind of uncover what that secret is. And so, what I love about Don't Nod is that not only are they great at storytelling, but they're not afraid to push the boundaries of what's in their game. I think Life is Strange 2, for example, dealt with some really strong, mature topics. And so, what you can expect is, even though it's more of a kind of colorful palette in the game, I think you can definitely probably expect a more mature storyline.
Darker
I love.
themes, yeah.
Darker
Seems
themes,
like a
exactly.
dark mystery. I mean, the conceit of the story is also they were teenagers when they met, and I think it's like 27 years or just over 2 decades afterwards where they get reunited and they're sort of like grappling with whatever's going on, whatever the
It
mystery
feels like
is.
a big reference to like It. And if it's as evil as It,
Yeah.
then I'm ready.
Oh, I will take an evil game.
They've also said like they specifically said that Lost Records is a series they're planning. So it's not just going to be a one-off thing. And most people, I'd kind of be like, well, maybe do the first one first, and then we'll find out. But after Life is Strange, I love those games, so I'm just like, yeah, make loads of them.
They're good
Let's go.
storytellers, yeah, absolutely.
By the way, if you haven't played Jusant, you must do so.
It's one of my games of the year.
Yes, it's on Game Pass. Go do it. No excuses.
No excuses.
Play it. All right. So I feel like there are a few other games that we're missing. One being Marvel's Blade was announced, which is exciting. Being created by Arcane Leon, the makers of both Deathloop and Dishonored, which is exciting. So we know their track record at making games. So excited to see more about Marvel's Blade in the future. And then we had Hideo Kojima unveiling his brand new game that we've gotten teases of a few years ago, and now we kind of get the title, OD. And the trailer was horrifying, of course. Anytime you're that close to someone's face, regardless, is horrifying that you don't really know. But I think it was just terrifying. And of course, we got a little surprise halfway through when the icon, the Academy Award winning filmmaker Jordan Peele of Inside, Get Out, Inside, Get Out, Us,
Nope,
and Nope came out, and he talked about how he's partnering. And honestly, that was really cool to see, because I think Jeff Keighley said it best. It's like two goats of the genre of like horror coming together to make an exciting game. And so we're excited to see that game.
it's a very cool pairing.
That's right.
It's amazing.
100%.
But Kojima's also, very particular to say that there's a bunch of other creators he's working with as well. So it'll be cool to see like all the influences that come in to make an unexpectedly creepy game.
I love that for that entrance with Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
They played.
Yes.
They started playing. I put 5 on it.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, it didn't sound like anyone really reacted, because I'm sure everyone was kind of like, well, obviously it's not going to be Jordan Peele who comes out the door. And then as soon as he did, you're like,
It wasn't until later I realized they were playing that sort of slowed down version that they had used for
one of the films.
for Us.
Yeah.
That was perfect, by the way.
So good.
Such great presentation there. Any other moments that stood out to you from the show?
For me, I loved seeing Sega come out with all of those remakes of some of like I was a Dreamcast guy, so seeing Jet Set Radio, I know it was Jet Grind Radio, but I'm old, and Crazy Taxi and Golden Axe and Shinobi, and I think there was one more, but it was just like all of this stuff coming back. I'm like, yes. No details on when or how or what. I'm not worried about that. The fact that the answer is it's coming, that's enough for me. That's going to sustain me for many a moon.
The clips of them, you're kind of looking at them going, okay, I can see how that Crazy Taxi looks. And when it showed Golden Axe, I was like, wow,
Yeah, because
this
it's been a
looks
long
very
time.
different.
I think the last Golden Axe we played was like there might have been one on the 360, but the last one I remember playing was on Sega Genesis.
Yeah, but like going for a very different style. I'm like,
Yes,
that's cool. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, so many great announcements and trailers, and of course the award winners. Another great show by Jeff Keighley. Just hats off to everyone in the industry.
I had this one.
Oh yeah.
You
We're both
go, you
jumping in. We're both
go. We're like
jumping in.
not done yet.
I just want to throw out there if there was a game announced called Rise of the Golden Idol.
Yes.
This is a sequel to a game that came out a couple of years ago and had DLC this year called Case of the Golden Idol, which never came out on an Xbox platform, unfortunately, but genuinely just one of my favorite little surprises for years. Like a really intricate, interesting, and weird alternate history detective game set in a century ages ago. I'm not sure which one. Like super, super smart and just an incredible little experience. And this sequel is set in an alternate reality version of the 70s.
Yeah, I'm seeing that now. Blood and Disco, it's called.
Yeah, it's really, really strange. And I just cannot wait. And it's coming to Xbox, which is amazing. And also the developers are Latvian, and as a man with Latvian heritage, there's not many times you can say that, so that's great. But yeah, just a really, really cool little announcement, and something I would never have expected to be part of that show. So yeah, I was very happy about that.
Another like unexpected one, because that's mine that I have to shout out. And I've never played Pony Island 1.
Oh yeah.
But I saw, like, I had a freak out moment next to Jeff where I was like, oh my God, the developer of Inscription, because I love Inscription. It's like, I would also kind of categorize it as like a horror game. It's very puzzle driven. You're sort of like going through these creepy environments. For Inscription, it was like this deck building game essentially. Pony Island 1, and I can immediately tell because like there's so much of that like artistic like similarities. This is a game by Daniel Mullins, an indie developer, and the Pony Island 1 is essentially like you're interacting with like an arcade cabinet that's been possessed by like Lucifer himself.
Wow.
So it's this like point and click, like, you know, adventure kind of game. There's some puzzle elements. It's like quite simple, but also complex, which is what Inscription was as well. Because yes, on the surface, it's this deck building experience, but then there's like things you can interact with, and then like items you get and like information that you get that unlocks these other things and unlocks the story and unlocks like assets and other kind of like video that you can interact with and experience. And so I'm just in for whatever Daniel Mullins wants to create. So I'm like, Pony Island 1 never played, but Pony Island 2 will absolutely be played by me.
You should play Pony Island 1.
I need to now to prepare. Yeah.
Like, it came out around that time. Do you remember Frog Fractions?
I was just about to say.
It's like it's the same sort of thing where because Daniel Mullins hadn't built up the profile as a guy who does this trick. And so when it came out, all I heard, same with Frog Fractions, was people being like, I know what it sounds like, just buy it and turn it on and play it for an hour and then come back. And it was one of those games where I was like, what is this?
You have to experience it to understand it.
It's really, really odd. In
the best of ways.
The thing I love about, he keeps repeating this trick, but making it work every time. Like at this point, you should be like, well, I know you're going to do this.
Right.
But even the trailer for Pony Island 2, I'm looking at it, I'm like, he showed us so much stuff, which makes me think there's going to be 4 times as much weird stuff in this game.
Oh yeah, there's always like hidden elements that he plays around with, and so I expect the same thing. Yeah,
I cannot wait for that.
Me too.
So many good games. I feel like it's a game for everyone at the show.
Absolutely.
That's so exciting. Let's shift gears a little bit, because now we have Xbox year in reviews. The year is over, and so I'm excited to go through and see what everyone's year in review looks like. And of course, if you've played on Xbox, of course, why would you be? You're watching this podcast, so you probably played on Xbox. You can go to xbox.com/year in review.
Very lost.
Exactly. To find out their stats. So I'll start with mine. Can you all guess what my most played game is? You can't guess, Joe, because I think you've already seen it.
But the thing is, I did guess.
Oh, yes. To be fair,
give him the credit.
Yeah, he got it correctly. He got it correct. What do you think of my number 1 game?
I already know.
Oh, I don't know. I was good because I feel like you were playing a lot of shooters last time you were actually living here.
That's right.
So I would say maybe Halo or Battlefield or fill in the shooter blank.
Apex Legends.
It is Apex Legends, although Halo Infinite was number 2.
There you go.
Very good.
So yes,
close enough.
212 hours in Apex Legends.
Nice.
Which I don't know if that's Joe, you said that was a lot.
I mean, my most played game, I'm on 76 hours.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah, and I have 2,000 hours overall in that game. Obviously, I love that game so
Is it
much.
you're slowing down, actually.
I have stopped playing Apex as much, but now I have a Steam Deck. Which
Did you see the Apex update where they're putting like Final Fantasy VII in it?
I did. That was a really unexpected.
Yes.
It's like, okay.
collab.
That
that'll
was
get
at the
me
Game
back
Awards
in.
too. Yeah.
I believe. I forgot which character had like the sword. I have to go back and watch. But that was out of the blue. I was not expecting that. Other stats. I have 307 total hours. So again, 2/3 of those are playing Apex. 24 games total. 35 achievements. Only. How many achievement points did I get? 580 gamer score. So you can kind of see from that I kind of stick to the games, but it's been really great because what this podcast has allowed me to do, especially with Tina and Jeff getting recommendations, is try new games.
Yep.
So that I don't come on here every single week.
Yeah, we got to diversify. We got to play all of them.
Exactly, all of the games. What about you all? What are your years in reviews looking like?
Yeah, I'm Starfield. 76 hours of Starfield.
Just Starfield, period.
Yeah. I feel like that might become a trend. What was your gamer score?
Oh, my gamer score for the year is 580. Is what I added up.
I think I got
Oh
nearly
my God.
14,000.
Oh my God! I'm looking at Joe's screen right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I played 60 games.
Are you a
this year, which
completionist, Joe?
I am not.
No.
Like I've just played loads of games. I think.
I feel like he's just challenging us now.
I know,
Yeah.
right? So with Starfield, your game is that technically your game of the year? Would you say? Tough
Oh,
question.
it's pretty close. Alan Wake 2 is
yeah.
right up there for me. But my second top game this year was Cyberpunk, because when Phantom Liberty came out, I was like, right, I'm starting this again and just doing the whole thing. And I absolutely loved it. So.
Yeah, and team did a great interview last week with Monica from the team.
She was great.
She was great, and I, as someone who loves train systems, I'm excited that that's coming. The
Awesome.
metro system is in the game. I've been waiting for that since it came out. But what about you, Tina? What is your year in review?
I didn't get a chance to do mine,
Oh, okay.
but I assume it's a combination of a lot of Cyberpunk as well.
Yeah.
I didn't go through and replay the whole game, which I probably should have, because I played back in our IGN days. So like that's on a PC somewhere. My save is lost. So I got to just do the, play through for Phantom Liberty, where they just kind of give you a character and you can spec from there. But I assume there's a lot of Cyberpunk in there. I'll have to put it in the comments.
Oh, there we go. Exactly. We're excited to see what you see if you're right and you
Yeah.
predicted correctly. Jeff.
Number 1, Starfield, 77 hours. I think we had played like within a few minutes of each other, which was great. So most played. 2 was Marvel's Midnight Suns. I played for about 70 hours. I loved that game.
It's incredible.
Definitely, that was the first game I think I played at the beginning of the year. And then it's kind of funny, number 3 at only 64 hours was Persona 5 Royal, because I'd started in November, December, whenever it first came out last year, played through Christmas, and then started, kept going. So that only reflects like half of the playthrough.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most game I've played in the last 365 days. But for the calendar year, Starfield, number 1.
There's some really cool little details on here as well.
100%.
Like the fact that it breaks it down by genre. I'm assuming
82%
82%
shooter.
shooters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So mine top is 48% action and adventure. Little list of games and how you stack up with other people. Like it's a really nice
Rarest achievement that you got in those games
Nice.
as well.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, just like a really nice little fully fledged breakdown of everything.
It's a nice look
cool.
back,
It really is.
to kind of see what games kind of you were interested in, played a lot of, and so I'm excited to see what those look like next year when we have a lot of exciting games coming out. But we'll talk about that in due time. All right, let's move on to patches, DLC update. We have a big one, of course, hot on the heels of their Game Award win. Forza Motorsport, a game that I got a chance to work on and we featured many times on the show. They're releasing their 3.0 update, which comes with game fixes. Of course, team always working on stability and things like that. The addition of the Hockenheim track, 33 new driver suits, and of course, new spotlight cars and events, though I will continue playing my car, driving my pedestrian car in the game because that's what I do. What can I say?
A man of the people, Malik.
What can I say? I'm a man of the people.
His pedestrian car is a Lamborghini Murcielago, just so you know.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, Jeff. I was trying to be humble, okay? But
I was going to say, do you play as the bad guy in Forza as well?
yes, knocking people off the track, get out of my way. But no, it's exciting. So be sure to update your game if you want to check out what's new in Forza Motorsport. But let's talk about it. Let's go into the interview because again, we've talked quite a bit, I should say, about Baldur's Gate 3 early in the show. But we sat down with Adam Smith, the lead writer for Larian Studios, to talk about Baldur's Gate 3's epic Game of the Year win and the game releasing on Xbox. So check it out. Hope you enjoy.
So I absolutely love that we are ending the year on a high note. We've been talking about the Game Awards, and nobody had a better TGAs than the folks at Larian, the creators of the Game of the Year 2023, Baldur's Gate 3. Well, that's not entirely true, as Baldur's Gate 3 became available to Xbox players during the show, making us the real winners, I'd like to think. This is an incredibly complex and flexible game, and if you, like me, are maybe not super well-versed in the CRPG genre, I'm here to tell you, don't be intimidated. At the same time, it's also nice to have a few tips, and so I'm really pleased to welcome Larian's lead writer, Adam Smith, to the show. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm 3 days out from getting back from LA, back to Europe. So, tired.
Tell us
happy.
how you're feeling. That's great. I mean, the Game of the Year, RPG of the Year, best performance for the voice behind Astaria, 6 total awards. Like, how does it feel to have such widespread recognition for a genre of game that maybe has always had its fans, but really doesn't get the spotlight like this?
It feels surreal. It feels great. First of all, it does feel fantastic. I mean, we took a big swing. Our feeling was there was an audience out there for a traditional style CRPG, a big audience, but we didn't know how big it was because it had been a long time since someone had done this turn-based 4-player RPG that was hardcore, but accessible. We hoped as well with the budget that we had. So we put everything we had into it: hearts, souls, cash, and we hoped the audience was as big as we thought it was. And what we had was a very good sample size, which was the people we work with, the people we speak to, and we were like, they all want this game. So we figured that a lot of people did, and it turned out they did, which was fantastic. But it was nerve-wracking. I mean, it's strange to say now because we're coming out of the Game Awards, the Golden Joysticks. We've done very well. You know, like we've touched a lot of people, hit a lot of people. We made a lot of people happy. It's great. But we were nervous on launch day. Some of us, I was sitting on launch day going, I think we're okay. But we were very confident in the game, very proud of the game. But we didn't feel, we didn't think it was a sure thing that it would reach as many people as it has. So it's been great.
Yes, I think a lot of people are discovering exactly why the recognition has come, the adulation has come, and I'm definitely one of those people. So I will say it was a great surprise announcement for Xbox fans to be able to experience Baldur's Gate 3 now. What's been the reaction from Xbox players? What have you been hearing?
It's been great. I mean, we knew, again, the Xbox audience was there. We knew they wanted this game. Our intention was always to have it in their hands as soon as we could. What we didn't want to do. So I'll just quick segue. I'm pretty old. So I was around in the days, I had a Spectrum, and then you would get these arcade ports and it'd be, is it going to come to my machine? Is it only going to be on Commodore? Is it going to come to Spectrum and Commodore? And the ports were like completely different games. You'd sometimes buy it and you'd go like, well, this is not the arcade version. They've cut out levels. They've cut out all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you wouldn't have music, all this. So our intention was, and we stayed true to it, was when we get this to Xbox players, it has to be the best version of the game. It had to be, we didn't want to have a PC version different to an Xbox version. So our engineers worked super hard to make that true. And then we also gave the most up-to-date version of the game. So the game has improved since release because we've been working hard on it and we will continue to work hard on it. But that was it. We knew the audience was there. We know Xbox players are RPG fans. We didn't see anything else that quite fit what we are. There's a lot of different things about Baldur's Gate 3, the cooperative element, the turn-based combat, the D&D world, and just the Larian-ness of it, whatever that might be, the weirdness and the sometimes strange darkness of it. And all of those things, plus the production values. I mean, we threw everything at that. So we knew that, Xbox players want good games, and we knew this was a good game. We knew they didn't have anything else quite like it this holiday season. So, and the reception's been great. So I watched many live streams because I enjoy seeing people play the game. And it's really fun seeing people discovering it for the first time. I've also seen people who have been waiting for it, but watching a lot of YouTube videos and trying to hold back from it, who are now like, oh, wow, okay, so I knew this was possible. What else can I do? And that's really fun to see.
All right, a lot of places we can go from there. Let's start with the fact that, yes, Xbox players are getting the absolute most up-to-date version of the game. It timed out really nicely with Update 5. What kinds of things have you and Larian learned since the game launched on PC this summer that have gone into this latest version of the game?
So the big one was they wanted more, which you always expect, and the biggest place where they wanted more was the ending. So we added a whole epilogue. Now, if you played on PC and finished the game, then you got a fairly short ending sequence that still wraps up the story. But people, they played that and then they said, well, I didn't get a proper send off to my party. I didn't get to say goodbye to everybody. I didn't see the consequence of everything I did. We tracked all of that, so we knew that we could implement it. So we said, they want it, let's go do it. So for my team on the writing side, we did nearly 4,000 new recorded performance captured lines of dialogue, so that you can actually say goodbye to everybody. We bring everyone back together at the end of the game. The ones who survive, not everyone survives, they can, but not always. And we did a lot of extra stuff. We did new music, so the soundtrack got expanded. The difficult thing was that we had, once you end something that's as complicated as Baldur's Gate 3, you say, okay, here's all the different permutations of our endings. And then when we said, okay, we're going to revisit them, we were like, wow, okay, so we need to, all the things that we promised, we now need to follow up on. So that's why it became 3,000, well, I think it's 3,600, 700 lines of dialogue. It's to cover the density of possibilities there. And new cinematics, all the rest of it. The other thing is that we've been doing a lot of balance. Now, balance is sometimes a dirty word at Larian because there's some things we want to balance, but also people do all kinds of weird stuff in our game. Some of it goes against the spirit of balance, and we applaud them and say, please continue to do that. So we don't want to level out the fun that people are having. We want it to be a game where people experiment and discover things. But there were some things that worked better for balance. My personal favorite thing, partly because it didn't involve any writing, so I could sit back and watch it happen, was the honor mode. So that's it's essentially a permadeath mode. So here, and my favorite thing about this is I won't spoil late game stuff, but there's a specific optional dungeon in the final act of the game. And I've seen so many people go into there and they say, oh, the boss does this big talk, like, oh, you're going to regret ever stepping foot here and all this. And then they're like, and it's not that hard. And then you go, yeah, and you saved 75 times to get through that place. Now you can't. And so many people go in and just say, nope. And they just get straight back out again because they're like, this time I'm really scared I'm going to lose everybody. So
not worth the risk. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be high risk, high reward. So having people see that, and I've literally seen streams of people where they run. They just go, I'm out of here. They just flee. And that's really powerful. It gives you a different story as well if you don't finish that one. So that's really cool. Yeah.
Good to know. I think I'm still 50 to 75 hours away from that dungeon at this point here. So Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2, no stranger to Xbox. The enhanced editions are available for Xbox consoles alongside Divinity, Original Sin 1 and 2. What has the team learned over time in adapting a genre that is commonly associated with, PC gaming, mouse and keyboard for controller wielding console players?
Well, the first time I saw someone play on an Xbox controller, I thought it was wizardry. I really am so impressed. The amount of complexity that they managed to handle. So the radial menus came in pretty early, and they were playing around with those for a long time. And what we do inside the studio is we play test constantly. We play our own game more than we do anything else in the world. It's the best way to know if it's good or not. Are you having fun playing it? So the whole way through development. And the first time we got the consoles plugged in and we saw the first UI, those radial menus were part of it, but they weren't quite right. So they tweaked and they tested. And then every time I see the inventory screens and the skill menus and all the rest of it, I'm just like, this is compacting that onto a controller is incredible. It actually, it's surprised me because we've got a lot of old school RPG players here, who've been around since, the old days like me. And a lot of them got converted. They play on controller now. Even when we were on PC, they would play on controller. And it started out as we need to test this, so it was work. It was like, let's make sure this is good. Let's give feedback. And they never went back to mouse and keyboard, which I thought was heresy at first. I was like, what the heck, But it is the way to play now, for a lot of people. And I think because you bring the camera in, which really wasn't the case in previous. Certainly Baldur's Gate games, but in the Divinity games as well. But once you get the camera in behind, it feels very natural to have a thumbstick to control. Mm-hmm. So we look at that and we say, well, what happens next? And we see so many possibilities for how we can improve that more. But yeah, it's really magic to me because I didn't think we'd be able to do it as well as we have.
Yeah, I've played quite a few hours on PC, and then when the Xbox version came over, I was able to port my save game over and pick it up and play on the 65-inch TV. And by the way, there's plenty of tutorials on how to do that. You just got to make sure you turn on cross save progression. I think it is as an option in there, both on your Xbox and on your PC save or wherever you're porting it over from. Because if you're like, hey, how come it's not here? You got to do that. So pro tip. What I found is actually I really enjoyed directly controlling my player character using the stick, and there's certain areas where there's traps or whatever, and I felt a little bit more confident doing that. as anything, I think it's going to come down to personal preference and what works for you. But I agree.
There's a level of immersion to having the direct control of the character, which I think is what appeals to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the old RPGs, they were very RTS-like in the way they controlled. It's a lot of clicking and dragging. And you see people, it instantly translates to them in a way they understand. So that's a good gateway to them getting used to the more complex systems because they get that straight away. Whereas if you say to them, okay, you need to drag around this party and then click over here, they're immediately attached. So then you throw a lot of other stuff at them and it feels a little overwhelming sometimes. So I think it really helps that.
Speaking of complex systems, let's talk about people who might not be really well acquainted with rolling 20-sided die. So what do they need to know about this sort of Dungeons and Dragons world and sort of like demystify it a little bit on what that means and how it may differ from more mainstream RPGs that they may have played in the past?
Well, from the perspective of the characters and the way that we wrote the world and we introduce people to the world, we go really weird really quickly. You wake up on a alien ship infected with a parasite, and that's a very weird way to start. But it's also pretty familiar. It's the kind of thing that we know from sci-fi as well as fantasy. And it gives you a very clear problem, which is one of the most important things you need in an RPG. What is my problem? What do I need to do here? The thing that we always said was, if we write these characters in a way that they believe in their reality, then other people will as well. So you don't need to know Dungeons and Dragons terms because these are just normal terms to them. So the introduction to the world is very much, this is a place that exists and all the fantastical things in it are actually normal to these people. So when you speak to them, they'll talk about them as if they're normal. And then you encounter them and they feel pretty normal, which is why we went really weird at the beginning, because what we needed was, what is weird to these people? And that was the Mind Flayers and the Nautiloid. What is the thing that intrudes on your fantastical world and says you don't know everything? So that was how we approached it from the writing side. From the system side, really hard. Tabletop 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is very, very complicated. One of the most complicated things about it is the classes. Learning a new class is like learning a new roleplay system sometimes. So we spent a lot of time on the onboarding. The tutorial was redone over and over again. I think what we have now is really good. My one piece of advice is always, don't worry if you don't understand everything immediately, because we're actually quite kind early on and we try to introduce things slowly. It doesn't feel like that always, but we don't throw you in the deep end. Narrative-wise, we do. Systems-wise, we do try and ease you into it. But if you don't pick up on everything, it's not going to punish you too badly. You can get through the entire game. There's also the difficulty modes, right? So if you're struggling with combat, just put the difficulty down. If you love the combat, put it up again. But we try to make sure that you can get through the game on the easier difficulties just with fighters. You can melee your whole way through the game. You don't need to learn about spell slots. You don't need to worry about that stuff. If you really start to enjoy the combat, go more complex and start dealing with that stuff. But D&D has the advantage that you're very squishy early on, so it's very perilous early on, but you don't have that many skills to juggle, so it's not too complicated. By the time you hit level 4, level 5, you start to broaden what you can do. So don't worry too much by how much we throw at you early on. I think people can trust us that we have them in good hands. I know a lot of people who've never played this kind of game before, and they got hooked by the visuals, by the characters, and then 20 hours later, I go visit them and they're on tactician mode and they can do more than I can. So it works.
Yeah, I'm living proof, because this is something where I spent, oh my God, must have been 45 minutes designing my character and not really knowing exactly what I was doing. And now I am level 5. I am a few dozen hours in, and I'm like, okay, now I understand why this works so well and this isn't working so well. And you can respec your characters, and now I'm feeling like, okay, I'm ready to take that next step and move from surviving to thriving, which is what I'm hoping to do. So you had mentioned, I think part of the other really interesting element of this game is, at the beginning, I'm hacking my way through, but I was starting to find, wait a second, there's some, I wouldn't call them shortcuts, but there are more creative solutions to things. One of the things that I'd seen, I've read every article that's like 10 things you need to know about Baldur's Gate 3 before you get started, or 15 things I wish I knew, and that are non-spoilery. And one of them that they all bring up is, you can shove people, you can shove enemies, and the amount of times I've like, I'm not hurting this person. Oh wait, they're standing on a cliff, and bye bye. And that's been like really, really, it's sort of opening up my mind that there's different ways to look at this thing if I can just get next to them. So I was just curious. You've seen, I'm sure, a ton. You mentioned you're watching a lot of streams. So what are some of the your favorite things you've seen in terms of like out of the box thinking, whether it's in terms of progression or encounters or anything like that?
So very early on, one of our playtesters realized that there's a boss in the goblin camp very early on, and there's a bridge that you can lure them onto, shoot the bridge, and they die. And they were like, "Oh my, this is I can't believe I discovered this exploit." Well, that's not an exploit. We put that very, very deliberately. And they were like, "Yeah, but it's so easy." And we're like, "Yeah, but now you don't get any of the loot." And they were like, "Oh my god!" And so the risk reward was very intentional there. And seeing people realize that is really good fun as well, because they're like, "Oh yeah, okay." And so there was a lot of that, but then there's a video that someone made just a couple of days ago where they showed the goblin camp and they showed all the different approaches that they'd seen and just condensed it to a 2-minute video, and it was so good to see. And just a little bit about the design of that. So like when we look at our inspirations, we're often looking to studios like Arcane and Immersive Sims and the way that they approach the way a level design works and the way that you have all these different avenues to go in. And I remember talking to one of the designers over at IO Interactive in the Hitman series, and they said a level is like a block of Swiss cheese. It has all these holes in it, and you make sure the player navigates them, keeps popping out in different places. And we took a lot of that philosophy to it, which I think has always been part of the way these kind of RPGs work. But with the tech we have now, just the verticality that we can add to it, the visual side of it, where you can actually see this stuff rather than having to click on a wall and get a pop-up saying, there's a hole in the wall. Now you can actually see the hole in the wall, and you can stack the crates, and you've got the real physics and all that kind of stuff. So once you put all those things together, then you get all kinds of things. One of my personal favorites was the Owlbear belly drop, which somebody did. They went to Moonrise Towers, which is an area in Act 2, very, very dangerous area that we made sure was very, very hard to tackle if you didn't do it very carefully. So either diplomatically, through stealth. But if you go in all guns blazing, you're in a lot of trouble. And somebody got a druid, wild shipped into an Owlbear, jumped from the top of it, and the game systems go, "Oh, here's your momentum, here's your weight," and it just obliterated every single enemy in the area just for this massive belly flop. And that's a good example of one where we were like, we really should balance this out. And then we're like, but it's so much fun, so let's leave it. And stuff like that, people just discover. I was talking to someone yesterday who only realized on their second playthrough that if they turn into a cat, then they can get into a lot of small places that they couldn't get into before. So yeah, you wild shape into a cat, there's some holes you can get into. So very, very useful. And then you can exploit other systems. So get into the place, pick up stuff there, and then you can magic pockets that to your other companions. So you can just kind of start a whole smuggling network from being a cat, which is great.
It's funny. Some of the most empowering feelings are not necessarily winning a battle, but maybe winning a battle you didn't think you could win because you did something very smart or clever, and thinking you've outsmarted the game. And now I'm realizing, oh no, you all thought of that, which is I think maybe the most impressive part.
We get outsmarted all the time. Like as soon as we put the game out in the wild, we were like, how long is it going to take for people to do stuff that we did not dream of? And almost immediately. And as a writer, you try to cover as many cases as possible. We always want to have the line of dialogue that reacts to the weird thing you do, but it's impossible because you're all more intelligent than us. And there's a lot more of you. We're outnumbered. So as much as we try, eventually somebody will find the way to go, Larian didn't think of that. And that's great because they feel good about themselves for doing that. Mm-hmm. What we can do is we rely on all our systemics to say, you may have outthought us, but we'll make sure you still have fun. So no matter how far you push the boundaries, the systems will pick it up. And if the narrative is in tatters because you murdered everyone in the game, then you'll still have fun because the systems will pick it up and they'll make sure that there's stuff happening for you, and the world's reacting to you, not always realistically, but in a way that's enjoyable. Because realism is not the goal. The goal is for it to be believable. So sometimes you get the strangest things happen. Someone will notice a crime and they'll be like, okay, I saw this person commit a crime. They run off to get help. They come back and you're gone, and they just go back to their patrol route. And that's fine because you feel good because you outsmarted them. Doesn't need to be. Realism is not what you need in an RPG like this. You'd never get anywhere.
All right, so we are we're winding down here with our time together. what does the team do next? I know we're at update 5. I'm assuming, well, hopefully a nice break for the holidays would be ideal, but I'm assuming y'all aren't done with this yet.
No. So I was saying just before we started recording, actually, that the last week felt like closure for me on Baldur's Gate 3, which was the best possible way to have closure. Game of the year, new platform. You know, it was incredible. But I'm at the point where I'm looking at new things personally, and I can't say what they are. But very excited about those. But we're not going to stop on Baldur's Gate 3, and I probably won't. There'll be a point where they say, "Hey, we're going to add this or we're going to add that," and they'll need writing support. So I'll always keep an eye on it. But for Baldur's Gate, I can't tell you exactly what's next for it, but we're not going to stop supporting it with free patches, free updates. We have all kinds of ideas. Just like the epilogue, we always thought we might do an epilogue. We didn't realize how big it would be and how much love we'd want to put into it. So I'm sure there's something like that we don't know about yet, but as more people play the game, and again, the audience just grew again. So as they play, we'll find out what they want more of, and we'll look at it. Now, we can't promise anything because we don't know yet, but we're not going to stop.
You're just going to keep an eye on your inbox for a request for another casual 3,000 or 4,000 words.
Yeah.
So where should folks go to stay up to date with Larian and Baldur's Gate 3 and, know what you are going to be working on?
We actually have one of the nicest communities around. So we actually have a really cool subreddit, which sometimes surprises me still. Like, it's so friendly, it's so creative, full of just beautiful fan art, fan fiction, and playthroughs, like all the weird stuff there. But we're on social media, all the usual places, Larian Studios. You can find me at Non-Economical. If anyone gets the pun there, then, well, joke. Congratulations. And yeah, we'll be, it's always through our Larian and Baldur's Gate accounts that we make our announcements. The Baldur's Gate account in particular it's a lot of fun. We retweet a lot of fun stuff there. So if you have weird things that you've discovered in the game, send them to us. Because we will probably retweet them. So make sure they're not too embarrassing.
Very good. Adam Smith, thanks so much for taking time out from everything. And I just want to say congratulations. Again, all I can say is, and I know I said it earlier in the show, is like, believe the hype. Now that I've gotten to try it, I'm like, totally understand why this is the game everyone's been talking about this year. So Adam, congratulations to you and the rest of the team. And now we're going to send it back to Malik and Joe and Tina and me. So let's just do that.
All right. Thank you so much to Adam Smith for joining us and talking about Baldur's Gate 3, which, if we haven't said enough, is now available on Xbox. Now, Jeff has had his hands on a very special little gadget here. It's the MetaQuest 3. Xbox Cloud Gaming is coming, and Jeff is in his own little world. I feel like, Jeff, are you there?
Oh, sorry.
I didn't see you there.
There we go.
There
I'm sure my hair is perfectly cromulent. So, so in part of our effort, as always, to bring gaming to more people, like wherever they're at, on the devices that they already own, we just announced this week that Xbox Cloud Gaming is coming to MetaQuest 2, 3, and Pro. And so what that means is there's an app that shows up in the MetaQuest store. You download it, and it works just like if you were to go to xbox.com/play, or there's other, you can download even on your Steam Deck, or various other ways that you can access cloud gaming. What's really cool about this, I tried this last night, is that I generally am gaming on my sofa. I have a 65-inch TV. It's a good TV. It's great. It's perfectly good size. Well, then I put this on, and I loaded it up, and it actually superimposed at least 100-inch screen. It was basically like it no matter where I looked, it followed. But it was well over like my full field of vision. It seemed to measure like the perfect amount. Actually, it sort of, and then it made like an entire room around me that was like an Xbox themed room. And then I went and I started playing Cocoon, and it was really fun. So you'd be like, well, you have a TV on the wall. Why would you use that? Well, it would be great in a room if I didn't have a TV. And if I was just traveling with just this, because everything went through here. So the controller paired through Bluetooth to the headset, and then it was just coming in through Wi-Fi, and it was basically as if there was an Xbox built into there. Obviously, there's not an Xbox built into here. But by using the power of the cloud, it was effectively just as good. Latency was like perfectly playable. It was really impressive. So like, you can, if you're going somewhere, you don't have a TV with you, you effectively have a TV in the hyperspace with it, and it was really very impressive. So am I saying, hey, you should go out and you should buy a MetaQuest 3 just to do that? Probably not, your call, but there are millions of people out there with a MetaQuest 2, a MetaQuest 3, which by the way is very fun. And when you were talking about all the game stuff, the music stuff inside Fortnite, I've been playing so much Beat Saber in here. Highly recommend the Weekend Pack. It is so much fun.
Panic at the Disco.
Yes, so, but then it's just another feature that you get to do within the MetaQuest 3, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. So try it out, because if you have one of these, it's free. Just look in the store. You'll find it.
There you go. Xbox Cloud Gaming coming to the MetaQuest 3. All right. So let's talk about what is on the table in front of us. The holiday season is upon us, and maybe you're looking for a gift for your friend, your parents, your family in general. We have a few awesome products here from our Designed for Xbox team. And so I figure we might as well go down the line and tell everyone's family what they should get for us. Tina, what should your family get for you?
Well, I snuck so we all got to pick, and I snuck a look at this new Turtle Beach controller. It's the Stealth Ultra High Performance Wireless Controller, built for Xbox and PC specifically. High performance, what does that mean? Well, it's all about like minimizing lag, of course. So they advertise this very lag-free experience. You can actually connect it directly to supported smart TVs and Android through Bluetooth, so it has that functionality as well. And then there's a bunch of stuff that is highly technical that I can only barely appreciate from my layman's point of view, but all good sounding stuff. So it's got anti-drift thumbsticks. It feels very smooth to me as I'm playing through it. And it features something called magnetic Hall effect sensors. I looked this up, and it was highly scientific. So basically what it means is there are magnetic fields, they come at a right angle, and because of this, it really minimizes the lag and the drift.
That's somebody that's an intelligence warlock or mage.
Yes, would do, obviously, because I've spec'd in all of my intelligence, so I can barely understand it. And it also has something called micro switches. So that's kind of similar, make sure that everything is fast and responsive, and apparently would last 5 times longer than your standard controller. That means just the durability of the buttons and everything that you're clicking and mashing when you get very frustrated at a video game, which sometimes happens to some of us.
How do you think they test that? Do they just have like a little
I
machine?
feel like there's just people like, just like one little like, goose guy, just, exactly.
Goose guy.
Just operated by water. So that's just sort of on the surface, but if you notice, there's a little screen as well as a 1.5-inch screen. They call it the connected command display, so there's a lot of things that this thing can do. You can customize the thumbstick performance. You can change like where your buttons are mapping to. You can actually change the lighting as well. I think I can turn this guy on just so you can see that it's got like the light up accent. I know. Well, I wanted to to kind of build to that point, but. So here I can see, it says profile 1 right now. Nobody's used this thing just yet. But you can do, I think it's up to 10 profiles. So if you have a big household and people have different color preferences, you can change the whole RGB, just look of this thing with these accent colors, but also just how things are programmed, and including like there's an eco mode, so you can preserve the battery life if that's your thing on your profile. Up to 30 hours apparently for the battery life there. And then you can also get social media notifications. So if you're like Joe and miss all your WhatsApp notifications and you really need a second screen for that, that'll come through here as well. So just tons of like customizable features that you can play around with. I think I've only even scratched the surface of what you can do with the connected command display.
If you're going to scratch the surface on that, you're just going to have to give it to me. I'll take better care of it.
Literally don't scratch the surface, but you can like change your button mapping, as I mentioned, the axis response modes, and vibration intensity. There's just a lot of, if you are very particular about your gaming experience, I would say this has it covered. Oh, and then another thing too is it comes with this case, with a, thank you so much, with a little like magnetic connector for the charging unit. But not only does it just like magnetically connect here, you can actually just charge it through the case as well. Like it's just, you can sit right in the case and charge it directly from there, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, nice little package.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, Joe, what
you got?
I want to show off.
I want it.
Oh, so cool.
This is the 8BitDo M30 wired controller. So it doesn't look wired right now, but it is wired for that lag-free input. Clearly very based on some classic controller designs, Sega in particular, and designed for fighting games or if you want to go back and play the old Golden Axe as part of the Sega Vintage Collection on Xbox
Way to bring it
360,
back.
perfect for that as well. What I love about it is A, kind of makes you look like an owl. And B, it's just got a really smart sort of reproduction of all the buttons you would expect from an Xbox controller. It's not skimping on any of that stuff, but it's just repositioned them in a way that feels very natural. Like, I'm not much of a fighting game player, but I genuinely think this would make me better at it. So that would be good. Yeah, just a really neat little thing. It's 30, I was going to say 35 quid. It's 35 quid. It's, I've got to remember
What is that in America?
Yeah, I've got to remember what country I'm in. It's $34.99 USD. And yeah, it just, like, a really nice addition, I would say, for someone who's looking for a way to play their games a little differently, or who wants some of that classic experience.
For Street Fighter 6, that's going to be great.
Yeah, it's really cool.
All right, so I want to talk about a very important accessory. Tina, if you don't mind passing me this new UpSpec Gaming X screen for our Xbox Series S. Now, you might have seen that UpSpec released this for our white Series S, but of course we released recently our 1 terabyte black Series S, and so now you can get one of these to match that if you have one of them. They're $249.99. And again, like I said, the white is available now. The black is coming soon. Be sure to stick around and, I should say, tune into their Twitter for updates on this when it's going to be available.
What does it do? Tell them what it does.
So this actually transforms your Series S into a little bit of a gaming laptop. I traveled up from San Diego, and my one regret, and I was really upset, was that it doesn't actually, I couldn't bring my console. And so now we have this, which just connects straight to the console. It has a 11.6-inch 1080p screen, 60 hertz IPS screen. And the cool thing is it works really well with the console. It actually powers the console off when you close the screen, like a laptop. Integrated speakers and controls and crosshair overlays. So
basically, you hold it, you put it in there, and then flip the screen up.
And look at this. Boom.
And then it basically connects in there, and it's just goes wherever you want to go, and it travels really well, and you don't need an extra cable, which is the best part about it.
It plugs right into the back. This is one of our dummy Series S consoles. It's just a little bit of a prop.
Oh, that's why it's not working.
I was like, is it gonna work? I don't know if it's gonna work, but
they're not real holes.
What a fake gamer.
It's a big console. I promise it's a lot easier to put together on an actual Series
Well,
S. But
I'll just go back to my seat now.
You know,
If you push hard enough and the console just crumbles.
what is
Yeah, it was an A for effort.
I was gonna
though.
stop
Like, you got
and-
the visual. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I was gonna let Jeff know. I was like, this is not a real Series S, but on your real Series S, your 1 terabyte, or you can put this on your white one if you kind of want a little black and white mix.
Panda dunks.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So be sure to check this out, and I'm hoping that I can take this with me because this is going to be
Fits right in
so
your pocket,
useful.
right?
I have a Series
Just
S for
slip
you
right
to take
out.
back home, too.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Does it work?
It's really light. That's the best part.
Love it. So yeah, like we said, be sure to go to news.xbox.com to check out all these accessories. Again, the Design for Xbox team working with some of our great hardware partners on a lot of different options for a lot of different people. So if you're looking for a gift, be sure to check that out. All right. So getting closer to the end of the show, but I know what everybody has been waiting for. Of course, our discussion has been great, but people want to know how they can win things. So Jeff, Free Code Friday.
Free Code Friday.
What's that about?
Yeah, so something we like to do every week is give stuff away, and this is our final Free Code Friday of the week of the year. So we're going to give out something really good, and that is Baldur's Gate 3. You may have heard of it, as we've
At
been
least
talking
in the
about
last
this once.
hour.
Yeah, if you hadn't before you tuned in here, you've heard about it now. And what we do is we ask a question here on Thursday, Friday at noon Pacific, or 8 p.m. GMT for our metric friends. You tune into twitter.com/XboxWire. We'll ask a question, and you have about 2 hours to answer that question, and we randomly draw a winner. Actually, we randomly draw 5 winners, and those 5 winners, like I said, will get Baldur's Gate 3. The question, to give you a head start, what are you going to be playing over the holidays? It's actually a question I've got for all of you. I'll be playing Cocoon. I'll be playing a lot of indie games that I didn't have a chance to play throughout the year. I'm going to be traveling quite a bit. I've loaded them on my Asus ROG Ally, or Roger Ally, as I've heard it referred to by Lucy James. Thirsty Suitors, Dave the Diver, a bunch of games that I haven't played this year. Roller Drome, I should download it because it's on PC Game Pass. So I've got plenty of room. I put a 1 terabyte in there. So that's what I'll be playing over the holidays. What about you, Tina?
You guessed it. Baldur's Gate 3. There's just so much to play, and I feel like with that extended amount of time, that's the perfect opportunity to dive in and like just feel through the systems and push through and hopefully finish it before the new year so I can push on through the rest of the backlog as 2024 piles on new games too.
Yeah.
I always like starting a game with like a proper world to immerse myself in and just play that across that whole period. And I'm feeling like Avatar Frontiers of
Okay.
Pandora
Looks
might be
pretty
the
cool.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard a
Like-
lot of people praising that one.
I've heard Far Cry with big blue people. I'm into that. That sounds great. So yeah, I think that'll be my one.
Ooh, good pick. I'm going to play a game that came out while I was moving that everyone's been talking about. It again, I haven't got a chance to jump into it. Alan Wake 2. So that, I just, obviously, again, nominated for
It's
Game
the
of the
most
Year.
festive game, so.
Well, I actually want to see if it's as scary as everyone's been talking about because I feel like I can't be scared by a video game. So I'm up for that challenge. So this holiday season, I'm going to be playing with the lights on in daylight, and just in case I get scared. But I'm excited to jump in, and again, Remedy has been doing amazing stuff, and so excited that I get to play that finally.
I'm excited for you. Like, I want to
to
wipe my
experience.
memory just to experience it all over again.
New Game Plus just came out
That's
with a whole
true.
new ending.
That is true. And that was announced at the Game Awards as well. That's very exciting. Whole new ending.
Super exciting.
So you'll have to tell us what your game that you're going to be playing over the holidays is. And that is your Free Code Friday question. Again, go to twitter.com/XboxWire, and that will be Friday at noon Pacific or 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Your Saturday night. Spend your Saturday night with us, GMT. Answer that question in about 2 hours, and we will randomly pick 5 winners for Baldur's Gate 3.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. That's our final show of the year. Thank you so much for inviting us into your space and joining us to talk all things video games. Of course, Jeff and Tina, thank you for being amazing co-hosts as always. And Joe, thank you for stopping by and being our guest.
MVP.
I flew 11 hours just for this.
Just for this, nothing else.
Delighted.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Please be safe over the holidays, and we will see you next year. Have a great one.